Hey guys, this is Greg, Underground Graphics. Today we're going to get back onto our Jeep products. As you can see behind me, we've got some red sill vinyl in there. This is not going to come red. This will be part of our Xpel series on the PPF. Again, we've had some people ask about it. It's something that we really kind of just looked over when we got our Jeep. First thing we did is went to Mopar and got our OEM sill covers on there. But we have had some people ask if that's something we were going to do. So we pulled ours off, went ahead and made some templates for our own use, and as you see, this is a 4-piece install. We did that to make that as easy as we could for you. We've got our top piece, so if you're standing on this ledge, you're not going to damage the paint on that. We had someone that called and said, the sand from their shoes or anything getting off that was causing that paint to get some damage on that paint. So we're not doing a full, one piece on there. Also, the JTs and the JLs have that seam there in the body. So we are going to go around that. So you've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we also have this where it is going to roll down on that outside edge. Remember, this is going to be clear. I would recommend keeping that. If you don't want that, you can cut that short. Again, I don't recommend it. It's going to be clear. You're not going to see it. But if you slide out like my kids do, and even I do sometimes, that foot's going to drag along that, and you will see that edge when the door is on. Obviously, yes, the doors are off for this. You don't have to have the doors off to put them on, but it does make it a little bit easier to maneuver around. If you do open the door up, take out that tether, make sure you protect this A-pillar piece. If that mirror hits that, you will dent it. So careful on that installation. So yeah, that's the front area, back area, the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. They are not labeled on where they're going to be, but they're pretty self-explanatory on where they go. Everything's cut to shape, ready to apply. And from there, I'm going to let Gian show you that installation on that. I am not the best PPF installer, and Gian has been fantastic with this in doing so. So I'm going to let you go, carry that over to Gian, and yeah, you ready to do this?
I think so. I've been trying. I don't know.
You do better give it a shot. It would be good. All right, so we're going to get this right off of here. Again, this was just to show you where that went. We got some photos of that for the site, so again, you'll know where that goes. And we'll get that ripped off. We'll go into our sill protection, and then we've got another product as well, which we're going to be doing the hinge protection for. All right, go ahead.
All right, guys, so we're back. We're going to do the PPF on the door seals of the Jeep. Now, what we have here is how one side is going to be laid out for you. This is the front and the rear. The longer side is going to be the front. And the way we have it positioned is how it's going to be positioned on the vehicle. We have the top, the bottom, and we have the top and bottom of the other side of that seam that the door has in it. And then we have the rear here with top and bottom and top and bottom. Same thing, split is where that seam is going to go. This is going to kick up just a little bit on the sides, so you might not nail that 100% when you place it on there, but it's okay. It's just something that's going to be protectant. It is clear, so it's not like it'll have a really big line that everybody will be able to see in there. Cleaning, same thing. You want to do the 20% or 30% water alcohol mix. That's 20% alcohol, 80% water, or 30% alcohol, 70% water. With the soap, you do want to have about 6 to 8 drops of Dawn dish soap in the water, and then in a 16 or so ounce bottle. This one is 18 ounces. So we did about 8 drops in that one. Depending on your climate, you do want to either add or maybe stick to around 6 drops. If you're in a climate controlled area like how we are, it's about 72 in here right now. I did about 6 drops. If you're in a warmer area, you want to do slightly more, probably go up in increments of 2 until you're confident of where it's going to be. You can use like a small piece of this and see if it slides around easily before you actually apply it on there. So that way you know that you'll be happy with however much slip solution that you do have, instead of having to guess and check with a big piece and then it's stuck before you want it to. So with that, cleaning is very simple. Of course, like I said, water alcohol mix, wipe down your surface, go back with your soap and water solution. If you have a clay bar, that's the best thing to do. I like to say it's like exfoliating the paint. So you want to spray down your surface with the soap and water mix, clean it with that clay bar, which is what we've already done with the Jeep. And then once again, wipe it off and go over with the alcohol water mix again, just to make sure it gets everything off. Other than that, the only tools that you need, I already mentioned the 2 bottles that you need, and the squeegee. Other than that, we are ready to put this on. It should be a fairly quick install. So, if you just stick with us, we'll get this rolling. All right, so one quick thing before we start this, you don't want to end up spraying all over everything. And like I said, you do want to be in a controlled area, so you don't want to do this outside because who knows what might kick up. Your dog might decide to walk past you and shake. Maybe you just ran through the sprinklers. Maybe your neighbor wants to cut his grass. Who knows? So we just want to keep that inside, give it a little bit of cure time once you've applied it. But with your spray bottle, you do want to have it on a mist. You don't want to have it on jet, or like I like to say, bad dog, because it will just spray all over the place. You want to get a nice even amount of soap and water on your surface. So we have this nice convenient table that we can use, but I'm going to pretend like we don't have it, so that way it is a little bit easier for you guys to kind of put it into your perspective. So I'm going to cut the rear away from the front, so that way it's a little bit easier to manage. I'm going to start at the back and then go to the front. Again, these smaller, thinner pieces are the top. You do want to make sure your hands are clean, so I'm just going to peel that about halfway, a little bit more than halfway off of the backing. I'm going to spray it. It is okay if you spray the surface here. You can spray it literally as much. It's not going to do anything to the PPF. It is just going to put that layer of soap and water over it. That's not going to harm anything. It's not going to creep underneath here and cause this to lift up or anything like that. So we'll start with the small part first. Spray that down. We are going to take our spray bottle with us just in case, so we can spray it on the surface. Right, get your surface nice and set. There's that seam that I mentioned earlier. Now when you squeegee this, you do want to put pressure on one side, so that way it stays where you want it to. And then just squeegee your water away from where you are. Again, even though you already pressed down this side, you do want to put pressure, just so that way you're not moving what you just did. Right. Might take a little effort for this to lay down, but there it goes. I'll move on to the next one. We'll let that one dry out. So I still have all the water and soap up here that I had before, just to show you guys it's not going to throw anything off. I am pulling this with my fingernails, so that way I don't have my fingerprint get stuck in it, because if you have a black vehicle and your hands or your surface isn't wet, you can leave a fingerprint in there. Once again, spray the surface. This one's a little bit tricky, but only because it's at a curve. And it's not a bad kind of tricky, it just takes a little bit more patience. So we've locked in that bottom. Spray up here. Just gonna working this ledge nice and even. You can go back over this with just a very light touch of a microfiber towel, just so that way it sucks up some of the water, because sometimes that ledge will keep a little bit of a bubble in there. It looks like we got this out, so we were lucky. Alright, and now we'll move on to these bottom parts. This time I am using my thumb, but try to use your fingernail instead. Gonna get the surface nice and prepped. And if you notice, I worked this top portion first, and I am trying to work my way down, since that is the direction that gravity wants to pull the water. I'm not going to try and fight it and work my way up. That's why we started top to bottom. This does have a bit of overhang on it, because as Greg mentioned earlier, if you have kids like to just kind of slide out, then this will help protect that. This is another one of those spots where if you have a towel, you kind of want to just put your hand here, keep pressure on it, and just move the water up and out. If you have any fingers after putting it down, that's fine. You can let those sit for a bit, come back and clear those up. Now we just have this front piece to do, and then the front portion of the door. Alright, let's slide this into position. Actually, I had that in the wrong position. There we go. That's why it's good to have the right amount of soap, because had I not, and I had placed that in the wrong place, it would have wanted to stay in the wrong place. Also, with the right amount of soap, it gives you the chance to lift something back up if you need to, without creating kind of like a hazy mark. And that just means that the adhesive kind of broke away from that spot. Alright, now I'm going to grab a towel, wipe this down so that we can maybe get a good shot of what this is going to look like, even though it is clear. So I went ahead and took this one from the table. I'm going to put it over here just to kind of give a little bit more options out there so you guys don't feel like you're stuck doing this one sort of way. So same thing. Just going to peel these one at a time. Again, putting our thumb where we want it to stay. Now that I lock that in, I do, and this is totally up to you, but I prefer having this curve kind of follow up. So what I'm doing is, since I've locked this part in, I am pulling this part up and a little bit further over this way towards the rear. So that way I can kind of get somewhat of an even stretch on it. So it follows this curve in this channel. And I just want to try and work that top half in. Go ahead and slide this into place. I almost got stuck there for a second, but have a good amount of soap and water. If you do get stuck, you can kind of just move it around in a circle and it'll usually break free. See if I can get that to happen for you guys. I got myself stuck right here. There we go. If you heard that click, that means that you broke free the adhesive. And with it still being wet underneath, it's not going to leave an adhesive mark. Right here I'm putting even amount of pressure on the squeegee so that way I can evenly get this water to come out without having to chase it for too long. There we go. Now we'll move on to these front pieces. Alright, this one's gonna go up on this ledge. This one is a bit longer, so I'm going to hold it from the middle instead of one of the ends. This way it doesn't move around on me. You do want to work in small sections. If you try to go across this whole way, it'll more than likely move the piece out of position. So I'm just kind of going maybe 3/4 of an inch to an inch, just little by little. And once you have it down, then you can start to swipe over the whole thing. Same thing here. Just slowly work your way over. Make sure the surface of this is wet once you have it in position. That way your squeegee's not pushing your film out of the way. Let's see if we can get this to curve over like this. Maybe that might make it a little bit easier. So I'm just getting the majority of the squeegee off of the surface and just rolling it over this edge. I'll help us get some of the water out. Now you do want to go back, kind of give it a good amount of pressure and a decent flick so you get that water out of there. Now our last piece. go ahead and slide that into place. Spray your surface. We're going to add that pressure in the middle again because this is a big piece. And then work inch by inch. Alright, same thing on the other side. Still going to put pressure here just in case. Now we're going to put that even pressure on that squeegee like we did on that back side. Slowly work that water out. Now you're just going to roll that edge similar to like what we did up top. Alright. Now for sure that you're happy with that, grab your towel up here. You do want to start at the end where that seam is. Start as close as you can to it without catching that PPF. Just want to wipe away from it. You don't want to go over your ends because it is still drying. This side we're going to go from the middle, kind of like we did when we were tacking it on here. We're just going to go right up to that line so we don't run into the back. Again, middle out, middle out. If you see a finger, this is a good chance to push it down and get the water to dry up since you do have that towel in hand. Wipe off everything else. Now that you've wiped off the PPF, you do want to wipe off your PPF first. So that way you don't end up having any dirt being drug across it. And now, just let it sit for, I'd say roughly about 4 to 8 hours. If you are able to let it sit for longer, that is definitely better. But if you're on a bit of a time crunch, you can let this sit for 4 to 8 hours. Just be mindful of it. That way your foot doesn't catch it. Now we're going to go ahead. We're going to throw the doors back on this. We're going to show you guys the hinge protection film that we do have, because it is apparently something that is common for Jeeps to have, where your tires, if you don't have a full fender, even if you do have a full fender, for it to throw up either rocks, gravel, or something like that and start chipping these up. So we found out a solution for you guys to have that. Give me 1 second. Alright guys, so we're back. We're going to do the door hinge protection guard. This is not PPF like the previous installs that we've done. This one is Stone Guard, which is similar to PPF. It is the same visual clarity through it. So it does look like just direct paint when you have something on there. But this one is a little bit more durable, just does not have the stretchability that PPF does or Xpel PPF does. This one is a lot more rigid, but it will help protect just the same. It's just a little bit easier to install on these smaller pieces than it is for something that's bigger, since these are somewhat flat. So these are fairly simple. Same thing as always. You do want to make sure your hands are clean. So you do want to use the 20% alcohol, 80% water mix to clean off the surface. You do want to, of course, if you have a clay bar, this one isn't really all that much necessary because it is a small area that you're going to apply this to. But if you do want to go ahead and clay bar right there, you can, and then just wipe that off again with the water alcohol mix. With PPF and clear films, you do not want to have the alcohol really anywhere near you once you have finished cleaning. The alcohol will make it stick almost immediately, and it will be very difficult to get it back up. If you do get it back up, though, it will leave a generally like a somewhat of a hazier white mark wherever it did adhere to the surface. So you do want to make sure that you have your alcohol far away from your install when you are ready to do that. Soap is the usual 6 to 8 drops that we use. It's 6 to 8 drops of Dawn dish soap, and in a 16 to 18 ounce bottle. If you do want to do a little bit more soap, say you're in a slightly warmer temperature, We're at about 72 to 74 degrees right now. So if you are in a warmer temperature, then you do want to add a little bit more soap. Sometimes you want to bump that up to 8 drops, sometimes maybe 10 drops, depending on where you are. And if we do have a little bit of extra backing to here, or a little bit of extra material to it, then you can peel that off, see how it slides around on the surface before you start actually applying the pieces that you purchased from us. So, without further ado, we're going to throw these on. You don't need too much soap with these. Really putting them on, you can put them on dry, but I will show you how I've come to make this work. When peeling these off, you do want to probably try to use your fingernails. If you have short nails, that is fine. You just want to make sure your hands are always clean. This Jeep is a little bit higher than the ones that I'm used to, so I might be at a little bit of a weird angle. So I apologize about that. So you do want to line this up. So the edge of the stone guard is going to line up with the edge of those letters and numbers for that torque 50 to take your doors off. Our bolt isn't in right now, so before you guys jump to the comments and say, hey, your door is gonna fly off, we know it's not bolted down. We don't know if it's gonna fly off or not. We just hope that doesn't happen. So just want to start with that edge, work your way over. If you like to, and you don't want to slide your finger up and down on that, then you can grab your soap. You can spray your squeegee just right there on the edge. See, I got both sides of it. And you can just work it over. Since your finger won't actually make its way all the way back there, that is totally fine. This way, it allows your squeegee to have some slide to it, and it's not gripping right on that guard that you have. Since we did use soap and water, we're going to wipe off this top one since we have not applied that yet. And the top one is simply just a rectangle. If you are able to see, there are some that have notches cut out of them, and there's others that are just rectangles. The ones that have the notch cut out are the ones that I just did here. It's on the bottom. The full rectangle, which is what I have here, is going to go up to that torque 50 mark that I had mentioned. Go ahead and press that down, kind of get that worked into there. You do have a little bit of a chance to pull this up if you want to. I'm going to go ahead and use the squeegee. I still have a little bit of moisture on the squeegee, so it's sliding by pretty easily. That's not fighting me. You can apply these wet if you want to, but if you are in a bit of a hurry, you need to be on the go pretty soon, you can also do these dry. Here, make sure that's sealed. Also, if you've purchased a kit from us once before and you have a squeegee like the plastic one that we provide depending on the kit, you can reach back behind there and work that down. I think that's what I'm going to try and do here. There we go. And this just kind of stops those rocks from kicking up from your tire. I will do another set. I'll do this back set with some moisture. This way you guys have options. I'm just going to spray that just a little bit, nothing too crazy. This way we can slide it around, if you can see that. Slide it about, get it to where you like for it to be. It's a little bit more tricky with it wet. Chances are you'll have to start on the inside, let it sit for a little bit, positioned. This might take some time for it to dry because since it is on this curve, it does want to lift up. So this way you guys can see what you'll have to deal with if you don't put these on dry and decide to do it a more traditional PPF way. This end can sit for a while and it will dry out and you will be able to apply it. But just to give perspective, throw this one on dry just to show you how much easier that is. Again, doing it this way because it is a small piece. So I have this one here. I don't think that's dried out enough yet. Also, it is moving around quite a bit, and I do not like that. Alright, I was somewhat able to let that stick, but it will come back up because this is a bit more rigid than PPF. It is staying down right now. But just so you guys know, these are easier to put on when they are dry. Of course, that is up to you. If, of course, you guys have any questions for us, you can give us a call. We're here Monday through Friday, 9 to 6. We can also answer through email. We have a Facebook and we have Instagram if you'd like to check out some of our content. Thank you guys again.